Anyway, good morning, everybody. I'm Reverend Beverley Strutt. I am the spiritual director here at Center for Spiritual Living East Hawaii. And I just love it. Look at your beautiful faces. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Anybody that finds himself here for the first time, new or online, yes, please, I'm extending that welcome home. We are a little crazy. We do have a little different way of looking at things, like I'm wearing flip-flops today. So this is the image of getting ready for a trip. I always tell everybody that before you go on your vacation, make sure that at least a week before you go, you start to wear the clothing. Get on your sarong, get your flip-flops out, let your hair go loose, go a little crazy, so that when you get there, you don't have to unwind. You've already done the unwinding. Look at Sandra, she's already got it. Look at Shaku, we've already got it. Look at Maddie. No, Maddie's still in the jeans. We'll get her to break loose on that one really soon. Yeah, we're all going. We're all going off to Bali. Yeah, woo-woo. Just saying. So anyway, but before we go, I still have something else that I need to tell you. Isn't that always the case? So today we're actually speaking about peace. And before I get into it, you know I have to give you a little something funny. And I found this little story. After a very long and boring sermon, you guys have never had to deal with that, right? After a very long and boring sermon, the parishioners filed out of the church saying nothing to the preacher. Towards the end of the line was a thoughtful person who always commented on the sermons. She said, "Pastor, today your sermon reminded me of the peace and the love of God." The pastor was thrilled. No one has ever said anything like that about preaching before. Tell me why. Well, it reminded me of the peace of God because it passed all understanding, and the love of God because it endured forever. So, so let's take that and turn it around. The peace of God that passes all understanding. Yeah, that's very nice in actuality, and that it endures forever. I have a little thing that I keep on my door to remind me before I walk into the office. It says, peace. It does not mean to be a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. That's what peace is. So we had a lot of opportunity this last week to deal with things falling apart, because the theme for the month is Pieces into Peace. And I chose to call my talk Rise Up into Peace. Rise up from the pieces into peace. And of course, as you all know, this last week we had to cancel our fundraiser, or postpone it, should I say. We just postponed it. It'll be coming back on October 12th, greater than ever. But it was very difficult to postpone that after watching all the work that fell into it. All of this beautiful stuff that had happened, and all of the energy and the excitement. And so that was like, it was breaking. I felt a little broken inside. I felt very emotional. I felt sad for everybody that had done the work. And slowly but surely, I let that go. And I let it go as the storm waned. Because the storm in and of itself was a representation of everything that was going on internally and around me. It was windy, it was gusty, the rain came down. Everything was kind of falling apart in its own way. And then it passed. And now, after the passing, was the time that we had to look and go, how do we pick up the pieces? Sure. For many of us, we had very little damage, and we thank the divine for that. We thank Mother Nature for passing us the way that she did. We had very little damage, but there were still things that were unsettling within us. And that also goes to be part of picking up the pieces, bringing us back to center, bringing us back to that place of calm, that place of peace. And so we can see what this is going on inside of us, which was being mirrored to us on the outside of processing the storm. What is it that we needed to look at? What were the things that we wanted to bring back together? What are the things that we wanted to grab to bring us back to that calm, to bring us back to that center, to bring us back to the groundedness? What were these things? Dr. Ernest Holmes speaks of this. He goes, you and I know that no matter how confused we are, if we will get by ourselves long enough and think peace, we can become peaceful. If we give us that time alone to be with ourselves, to be alone with ourselves, we can become peaceful. Peace is the divine reality at the heart of God. Let us, out of the stillness of our own soul, reach back to the ineffable presence, which is peace, and proclaim it even in the midst of confusion. Peace, which is the power at the heart of God. Peace, which is at the power, is the heart of God. So when we are trying to gather our calm back, we're returning to that divine place where there is a stillness, there's a knowingness, there's all of these things placed in there already. But we put a tremendous amount of pressure on ourselves. As soon as something is out of the norm, we really put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We've got to get it back. We've got to get that peace in. We've got to get it back in here. Being out of alignment is not an option. Having things fall apart is not an option. We've got to control all of this. We've got to get all those pieces and bring them back. And until we do, we're in a state of malaise. We're in a state of drama. I mean, we all know we have those friends that the drama never ends. It's always falling apart. Things are always, always falling apart. And we just have to really just look very gently at what it is we're doing when we bring in those pieces back. Do we need it to be exactly the same as what it was before? Yes. For some people, we do. We need to have everything come back. There is a mental equivalent of what peace is. And if it's not that, then it's everything else. Then everything is shit. I'm just going to say it. If it's not this, in perfect peace, then it's shit. No, absolutely not. Because peace can look very differently. And I do have some folks around me, and many of us have friends like this, where it seems that their life is continually falling apart. They're continually searching for peace, and yet peace is always avoiding them or eluding them. And I've come to think that maybe it's because that mental equivalent for peace is old. Maybe it's time to toss out that idea of what peace is and see what peace can be now. Because many times what was peace for us before is not peace anymore. But we go after it because we've got to have it right. We've got to have it right. We've got to get all those pieces back together perfectly. And then we can have our peace. Anybody in that situation where it's absolutely not happening? And as hard as you try, peace is eluding you completely. It is just not happening in that manner. Now, sometimes, like I said in my newsletter, we might want to look and see what we're attracting. Are there lessons that we're not learning, and that's why we continue to fall apart? Or do we just have to find a new peace? Do we have to look and see what was that old mental equivalent of peace and go, but that's not relevant anymore? I think we would all have an easier time if we could reconstruct this idea of what peace is. And it brings me to that beautiful, beautiful tale, that metaphor, that story. It's called The Legend of Kintsugi. Kintsugi. Now, Kintsugi is a Japanese legend that tells the story of a mighty shogun warrior who broke his favorite tea bowl and sent it away for repairs. When he received it back, the bowl was held together by unsightly metal stables. Now, just to understand that that was the way of putting everything back together. was to get these metal staples and put it back together so it looked exactly like it did before. Right? But they were unsightly. So although he could still use it, the shogun was very disappointed. He was hoping to restore his beloved bowl to its former beauty. Can you see what's going on here? We have this mental equivalent of peace. And if we have to staple it together so it looks the same as it always did, we're going to. But it could be better. He was hoping for something that could to restore the beauty of it. The beauty of that peace. The beauty of that mental equivalent that we have for peace. Not the broken bowl with the metal staples in it. So he asked the craftsman to find a more elegant solution. The craftsman wanted to try a new technique. So here we have this little voice. The craftsman could have been the divine saying, oh, I'm going to show you something new, right? And so he said he would add a beauty to the bowl as he repaired it. So he mended every crack of the bowl with a lacquered resin mixed with gold. When the tea bowl was returned to the shogun, there were streaks of gold running through it, telling its story, and the warrior thought adding to its value and its beauty, and this is known as kintsugi. Can we do that? Wouldn't that be brilliant? If as opposed to looking for what we've always had and making sure that we did it exactly the same as before, that we picked those pieces up and formed something new. Something filled with pieces of gold that was more brilliant and more beautiful than it could ever have been. Do you think that we would maybe gain a deeper sense of peace within us if we didn't struggle so hard to keep an old paradigm alive? I don't think nature does that. If you see a plant or a tree that's broken down from the storm, you see it out there hitching itself up, putting struts up, putting it all up, so it looks exactly the same as before, so it could be there. It doesn't matter if it's secure or not. No. You see something brand new come forward from it. Completely brand new. Different direction even. It might even look like this. But it's new and it's beautiful and it's exciting and it is sustainable. Trying to recreate the old is not sustainable. And also part of this is as we see the bowl being fixed, sometimes we need to break our bowl. Sometimes it could be a piece falling off. Stick it back on. Another piece. Oh, let's grab that. Let's get. Oh, no. You can't possibly go. Let me bring you back. So that it makes you feel whole. Maybe we need to go. Let the storm come. Let it break us open. Let us break us apart. And then, with a new way, we can reassemble those pieces with the gold in between, and it will look anew, and we can start with a new idea of what peace can be in our lives. Can you feel that? There's a calm. There's a calm in that. There's a calm in that kind of peace. It's a peace of knowing wholeness, absolute wholeness. Now, people ask me, when we'll get back to wholeness, because I loved this one. I read this the other day. People sometimes go, well, how do you, when everything is just going crazy, how do you bring it back to peace? Everything is on fire. Oh, there's an idea. What would you do when you were a kid, right? If there was a fire, if you got fire on you, what did you do? Exactly. You would stop, you would drop, and you would roll. We all learned that, right? So your life is on fire. The storm is swirling, everything. What should you do? Stop, drop, and pray. Ah, there it is. We stop. We stop in that moment in time and we go, no, this is not the thought I want to be having. I don't want to have this thought. This is ridiculous. No, this is not the peace that I desire. Stop. Drop. Where do we drop? From the head into the heart. And of course, we go to prayer. We all know that that is the most powerful tool we have. So when your hair is on fire or things are going crazy or everything is falling apart, what are we going to do? We're going to stop, drop, and pray. I love that. I thought that was kind of cute. Yeah? Kind of fun. Will you remember that? I think so. You remembered it from a childhood. We just changed one word on there. We roll because it will get the fire out. We pray because we get the divine in play to help us through it all. And in doing so, we get to return to knowing who we are, because we do require that place of peace to really get to know who we are. We get to know that we are whole, because when the pieces are falling apart, we start to feel separated. We feel separated from the divine. We feel separated from our center, from our core. When the wind is swirling, we're feeling separated. There's an anxiety. And even when we start picking pieces up together, we want to do it so that we can know our wholeness. We want to bring ourselves back to peace to know our wholeness. You know, God knows your wholeness, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you have one piece standing. It doesn't matter if your life is all in pieces, completely all over the ground. You are still whole. Because there's a place inside of you that is untouchable. Never been touched, never been touched, never been damaged, never going to ever get damaged. That is the divine within you. That is the wholeness. And this is how divine sees you. This is how God sees you. It doesn't matter if your hair's on fire. It doesn't matter if everything's lying on the ground. It doesn't matter if everything is broken. You are still whole. However, we don't believe that. We don't believe it. We're going around picking up all of our pieces, putting our vessel all back together so that we can know wholeness. And if it's not perfect, then we can't know that we are whole and we struggle. No. It is perfect in every way. It is always perfect. You are whole already. You don't need to do anything to be whole except know it. You have to know it. And you have to know the beauty of yourself even when there's a big old crack right down here and you can't even find the piece. You'd love to go fix that piece on you, but you can't find it. You know why? Because it probably didn't exist in the first place, but you thought it was there. And now you look down and it's broken. Oh, now I might as well throw myself away. I'm of no use whatsoever to the world. Really? Yeah. I've got a lovely story about that too. I've got stories today. I'm in story land. There was an elderly Chinese woman who had 2 large pots, each hung on the ends of a pole which she carried across her neck. One of the pots had a crack in it, while the other one was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water. At the end of the long walk from the stream to the house, the cracked pot arrived only half full. For a full 2 years, this went on daily, with the woman bringing home only 1.5 pots of water. Of course, the perfect pot was proud of its accomplishment, but the poor cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfections and miserable that it could only do half of what it had been made to do. Anybody? Anybody feel like that from time to time? A little cracked, a little broken, not producing what you think you're supposed to be producing? Just maybe. After 2 years of what perceived to be a bitter failure, it spoke to the woman one day by the stream. It said, "I am ashamed of myself because this crack in my side causes water to leak out all the way back to your house." The old woman smiled and said, "Did you notice that there are flowers on your side of the path, but not on the other path's side. That's because I have always known about what you think your flaw is. So I planted flower seeds on the side of your path. And every day while we walk back, you water them. For 2 years, I've been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate the table. Ah, there it is. There it is. This idea that if I'm not put back completely, perfectly together, that I'm flawed, that I'm not whole, that I'm not perfect in every way, and therefore of no great use to the world or to my environment. But from that crack flowed the water that watered the flowers along the way. So you want to remember at any given time when you feel that you are lacking or feeling that you're just not perfectly put on or not perfectly centered or not perfectly this or perfectly that, think of what the beauty is within you that is watering from that crack of what you perceive. Take that extra time to see where your goodness in the world is happening regardless of how you think about yourself. And then maybe you can come back and recreate that vessel so that it can hold the peace that you can know now. Because that old idea of being imperfect is part of an old peace idea that no longer exists. That mental equivalent of perfection to be at peace is gone. So we get to do it all fresh. We get to acknowledge the wholeness of who we are in every minute, no matter what is going on. And then we get to recreate what it is we desire to see. A new way of being, a new peace. Yeah, we have to remember that we're always whole, no matter what. Dr. Holmes says, peace comes from a sense of union with the whole. Confusion comes from a sense of separation. It is so easy for us to separate ourselves. We're not like this person. We're not like that person. I'm not good enough doing this. I always make these mistakes. I always do this. I am not good enough. Ooh, the taproot of everything that comes forward, that shows up in our lives is that which we do not desire comes from I am not good enough. The divine made you perfectly in every way. It has for you everything you could possibly need or desire. And it gives with no bias and no judgment. If you breathe, you are good enough. If you breathe, you are good enough. You need do nothing else but breathe to have the birthright of the goodness of the divine. Always, you need do nothing else but breathe. For that is the birthright. That is the promise of the divine. Your breath is the promise of the divine. So know your wholeness, know your value, know your magnificence. And when you go seek peace, know that it is there for you already. It is waiting. When you get there, it'll go, hey, how you doing? Thought you could have got here a little earlier, but now that you're here, let's play. Peace is there for you in every minute, as long as you allow it to be, and as long as you recognize it as yours. The divine is pouring forth, and you can only use what you're willing to take. It is there, always. And why do we do this? Why do we work on our peace? Why do we even bother with wanting to weather the storm and come back and rebuild and start anew and know our perfection? Because as we do it with ourselves, we can do it in the world. If we don't do it with ourselves, we can't know it for the world. It is not possible. It says here, if you want peace on earth, Let us pray for peace in our own hearts. Let us affirm peace in our own minds. So if you've got something going on the outside that is getting in the way of your peace, come and let's get it fixed. Oh, not fixed, that's not a good word. But let's get it shifted so that you can get to that place of peace, because I need you. You need you. We need you. We need each other to be doing this work in peace so that the world can know it too. For it begins in our own hearts. And as we do it, so it goes out into the world. I don't know if any of you have ever studied the Kabbalah, but in the Kabbalah, it speaks of the shattering of the vessel of the divine. The divine light was so strong that this vessel that contained it could not hold it, and so it shattered. And in every piece of each shard is the light of the divine in there. And the purpose of our place on earth is to bring this beautiful vessel back together. It never said exactly as it was before. It never said any way that it had to look. But that is our work to bring this back together. And we do it how? We do it by righteous acts. Acts of love, acts of kindness, acts of peace. And you know they all begin within us, right? So you've got to love yourself first so that you can love the people around you, so that we can reassemble this beautiful vessel of the divine light, the shattering. There's a lot more to that story, and I invite you to go and read more about it. But that is the essence of it, that it is our job here to do this. And if you think about it, if that's the work we're doing, what is all the other stuff that is an outpicturing of those kind acts, of the righteousness of it, of the peace that we want to find within ourselves? So we do this work. We do this work so that we can know the wholeness that we are. We can remember our connection to the divine, and that we can actually walk in some calm. So I'm going to remind you one more time, and I'm going to charge you with this during the week, that when things start to swirl and get out of control, you're going to stop, drop, and pray. You're going to stop, drop, and pray. And this is a prayer that I'm going to offer to you. And you can repeat this after me. I am surrounded by peace. I am immersed in peace. There is nothing but peace. Peace, deep, calm, undisturbed. It is easy, it is beautiful. Okay, no, you didn't have to repeat that. That was the prayer. The prayer was easy and beautiful. I love you guys. All right, so I'm going to complete today knowing that we have been able to pick up the pieces, clean up after the storm, bring up what we want, get rid of what we don't need that no longer serves us, and recreate a beautiful bowl anew, a bowl that looks different, a bowl that is filled with gold, and a bowl that is sustainable for the desires of our lives. So I'm going to read a little piece from Mark Nepo one more time. We're back to the water. We're back to the tempest. It's called The Edge of Center. All tempest has, like a navel, a hole in its middle, through which a gull can fly in silence. From across the centuries, the nameless voice tells us that at the heart of all struggle, there is a peaceful, enduring center. If we can only reach it. Still, a deeper paradox of life is carried here, for the gull flies through the peaceful center. It does not live there. The work, it seems for us, is to draw sustenance from that central, eternal space without denying the experience of the storm. That is also really important. We must not deny the storm, because the storm is the action that promotes us forward to a greater sense of peace. Repeatedly, we are thrown into the storm and into the center. When in the storm, we are exacerbated by our humanness. When in the center, we are relieved by our spiritual place in the oneness of things. So to find the center and to spread our battered wings is to feel the God within. Our constant struggle is in living both sides of this paradox, for we cannot get to the center without going through the storm that surrounds it. Yet the storm of human experience can only be endured by knowing what the gull knows. The storm can only be survived from the center. In how we pass each other from storm to center and back, there you'll find the trials and the gifts of love. So please remember that as we walk through the storm, I'm not going to break into song, I promise. As we walk through the storm, it is a wonderful, beautiful opportunity for us just to calm down and to see the beauty of this mess that it could create. For we get to choose. We get to choose how we want to put that bowl back together. Thank you. All right, let's take it to prayer. So we just breathe into this moment, into this time. And in this moment, we recognize the power and presence of the divine, the all that is, that incredible creative intelligence that has brought us forward right here, right now. That is the very life force of our breath, that breath that is our birthright to all the magnificence that the divine can pour forward onto us. And I know for each one of us, as we've come through this week and as we've come through all the storms of our lives, that we have found a peace. Sometimes it's a way, and it takes longer than we would like to see it, but it is there. It is always there, waiting for us to lean back into it, to lean back into this knowingness that we are whole and one with the divine. And it is that place of calm that we can rest easily and recreate what our life wants to look like. It is in that place where we get to choose. And it is also in that place we can rest back in the faith that no matter what storm comes our way, we can look forward to the sunshine, for it will always come. Behind every storm and behind every cloud, the sun still shines. And so we lean into that place effortlessly, easily, with great faith and great knowing. And so I can just release this prayer knowing that it is done magnificently. And we can claim it together by saying, and so it is. Thank you.